Part Three, Chapter 3, Section 1 of The Possessed by Fyodor Dostoevsky, translated by Constance Garnett. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Part 3, Chapter 3, A Romance Ended, Section 1. From the large ballroom of Skvoreshniki, the room in which the last interview with Varvara Petrovna and Stepan Trofimovitch had taken place, the fire could be plainly seen. At daybreak, soon after 5 in the morning, Liza was standing at the farthest window on the right, looking intently at the fading glow. She was alone in the room. She was wearing the dress she had worn the day before at the matinée, a very smart light green dress covered with lace, but crushed and put on carelessly and with haste. Suddenly noticing that some of the hooks were undone in front, she flushed, hurriedly set it right, snatched up from a chair the red shawl she had flung down when she came in the day before, and put it round her neck. Some locks of her luxuriant hair had come loose and showed below the shawl on her right shoulder. Her face looked weary and careworn, but her eyes glowed under her frowning brows. She went up to the window again and pressed her burning forehead against the cold pane. The door opened and Nikolay Vsyevolodovitch came in. "I've sent a messenger on horseback," he said. "In 10 minutes we shall hear all about it. Meantime the servants say that part of the riverside quarter has been burnt down, on the right side of the bridge near the quay. It's been burning since 11 o'clock, now the fire is going down." He did not go near the window, but stood 3 steps behind her. She did not turn towards him. "It ought to have been light an hour ago by the calendar, and it's still almost night," she said irritably. "Calendars always tell lies," he observed with a polite smile, but a little ashamed. He made haste to add, "It's dull to live by the calendar, Liza." And he relapsed into silence, vexed at the ineptitude of the second sentence. Liza gave a wry smile. "You are in such a melancholy mood that you cannot even find words to speak to me. But you need not trouble, there's a point in what you said. I always live by the calendar. Every step I take is regulated by the calendar. Does that surprise you?" She turned quickly from the window and sat down in a low chair. "You sit down too, please. We haven't long to be together and I want to say anything I like. Why shouldn't you, too, say anything you like?" Nikolay Vsyevolodovitch sat beside her and softly, almost timidly, took her hand. "What's the meaning of this tone, Liza? Where has it suddenly sprung from? What do you mean by 'we haven't long to be together'? That's the second mysterious phrase since you waked half an hour ago." "You are beginning to reckon up my mysterious phrases," she laughed. "Do you remember I told you I was a dead woman when I came in yesterday? That you thought fit to forget or not to notice." "I don't remember, Liza. Why dead? You must live." "And is that all? You've quite lost your flow of words. I've lived my hour and that's enough. Do you remember Christopher Ivanovitch?" "No, I don't," he answered, frowning. "Christopher Ivanovitch at Lausanne. He bored you dreadfully. He always used to open the door and say, 'I've come for 1 minute,' and then stay the whole day. I don't want to be like Christopher Ivanovitch and stay the whole day." A look of pain came into his face. "Liza, it grieves me, this unnatural language. This affectation must hurt you too. What's it for? What's the object of it?" His eyes glowed. "Liza," he cried, "I swear I love you now more than yesterday when you came to me." "What a strange declaration! Why bring in yesterday and to day and these comparisons?" "You won't leave me?" he went on, almost with despair. "We will go away together to day, won't we? Won't we?" "Aie, don't squeeze my hand so painfully. Where could we go together to day? To rise again somewhere? No, we've made experiments enough, and it's too slow for me, and I am not fit for it; it's too exalted for me. If we are to go, let it be to Moscow, to pay visits and entertain. That's my ideal, you know. Even in Switzerland I didn't disguise from you what I was like. As we can't go to Moscow and pay visits since you are married, it's no use talking of that." "Liza, what happened yesterday?" "What happened is over." "That's impossible, that's cruel." "What if it is cruel? You must bear it if it is cruel." "You are avenging yourself on me for yesterday's caprice," he muttered with an angry smile. Liza flushed. "What a mean thought!" Why, then, did you bestow on me so great a happiness? Have I the right to know?" "No, you must manage without rights. Don't aggravate the meanness of your supposition by stupidity. You are not lucky to day. By the way, you surely can't be afraid of public opinion, and that you will be blamed for this great happiness? If that's it, for God's sake don't alarm yourself. It's not your doing at all, and you are not responsible to any one. When I opened your door yesterday you didn't even know who was coming in. It was simply my caprice, as you expressed it just now, and nothing more. You can look every one in the face boldly and triumphantly." "Your words, that laugh, have been making me feel cold with horror for the last hour. That happiness of which you speak frantically is worth everything to me. How can I lose you now? I swear I loved you less yesterday. Why are you taking everything from me to day? Do you know what it has cost me, this new hope? I've paid for it with life." "Your own life or another's?" He got up quickly. "What does that mean?" he brought out, looking at her steadily. "Have you paid for it with your life or with mine, is what I mean. Or have you lost all power of understanding?" cried Liza, flushing. "Why did you start up so suddenly? Why do you stare at me with such a look? You frighten me. What is it you are afraid of all the time? I noticed some time ago that you were afraid, and you are now, this very minute. Good heavens, how pale you are!" "If you know anything, Liza, I swear I don't, and I wasn't talking of that just now when I said that I had paid for it with life." "I don't understand you," she brought out, faltering apprehensively. At last a slow, brooding smile came on to his lips. He slowly sat down, put his elbows on his knees, and covered his face with his hands. "A bad dream and delirium. We were talking of two different things." "I don't know what you were talking about. Do you mean to say you did not know yesterday that I should leave you to day? Did you know or not? Don't tell a lie. Did you or not?" "I did," he said softly. "Well, then, what would you have? You knew, and yet you accepted that moment for yourself. Aren't we quits?" "Tell me the whole truth," he cried in intense distress. "When you opened my door yesterday, did you know yourself that it was only for 1 hour?" She looked at him with hatred. "Really, the most sensible person can ask most amazing questions. And why are you so uneasy? Can it be vanity that a woman should leave you first instead of your leaving her? Do you know, Nikolay Vsyevolodovitch, since I've been with you I've discovered that you are very generous to me, and it's just that I can't endure from you." He got up from his seat and took a few steps about the room. "Very well, perhaps it was bound to end so. But how can it all have happened?" "That's a question to worry about, especially as you know the answer yourself perfectly well and understand it better than anyone on earth, and were counting on it yourself. I am a young lady, my heart has been trained on the opera, that's how it all began, that's the solution." "No." "There is nothing in it to fret your vanity. It is all the absolute truth. It began with a fine moment which was too much for me to bear. The day before yesterday, when I insulted you before every one, and you answered me so chivalrously, I went home and guessed at once that you were running away from me because you were married, and not from contempt for me, which, as a fashionable young lady, I dreaded more than anything. I understood that it was for my sake, for me, mad as I was, that you ran away. You see how I appreciate your generosity. Then Pyotr Stepanovitch skipped up to me and explained it all to me at once. He revealed to me that you were dominated by a great idea, before which he and I were as nothing, but yet that I was a stumbling block in your path. He brought himself in, he insisted that we three should work together, and said the most fantastic things about a boat and about maple wood oars out of some Russian song. I complimented him and told him he was a poet, which he swallowed as the real thing. And as apart from him I had known long before that I had not the strength to do anything for long, I made up my mind on the spot. Well, that's all, and quite enough, and please let us have no more explanations. We might quarrel. Don't be afraid of anyone. I take it all on myself. I am horrid and capricious. I was fascinated by that operatic boat. I am a young lady. But you know I did think that you were dreadfully in love with me. Don't despise the poor fool, and don't laugh at the tear that dropped just now. I am awfully given to crying with self pity. Come, that's enough, that's enough. I am no good for anything, and you are no good for anything.
It's as bad for both of us, so let's comfort ourselves with that. Anyway, it eases our vanity." "Dream and delirium!" cried Stavrogin, wringing his hands, and pacing about the room. "Liza, poor child, what have you done to yourself?" "I've burnt myself in a candle, nothing more. Surely you are not crying too? You should show less feeling and better breeding." Why did you come to me?" "Don't you understand what a ludicrous position you put yourself in the eyes of the world by asking such questions? Why have you ruined yourself so grotesquely and so stupidly, and what's to be done now?" "And this is Stavrogin, the vampire Stavrogin, as you are called by a lady here who is in love with you. Listen, I have told you already. I put all my life into 1 hour and I am at peace. Do the same with yours. Though you've no need to, you have plenty of hours and moments of all sorts before you." "As many as you. I give you my solemn word, not 1 hour more than you." He was still walking up and down, and did not see the rapid penetrating glance she turned upon him, in which there seemed a dawning hope. But the light died away at the same moment. "If you knew what it costs me that I can't be sincere at this moment, Liza, if I could only tell you." "Tell me? You want to tell something to me? God save me from your secret!" she broke in, almost in terror. He stopped and waited uneasily. "I ought to confess that ever since those days in Switzerland I have had a strong feeling that you have something awful, loathsome, some bloodshed on your conscience, and yet something that would make you look very ridiculous. Beware of telling me if it's true. I shall laugh you to scorn. I shall laugh at you for the rest of your life. Aie! You are turning pale again. I won't, I won't. I'll go at once." She jumped up from her chair with a movement of disgust and contempt. "Torture me, punish me, vent your spite on me," he cried in despair. "You have the full right. I knew I did not love you, and yet I ruined you. Yes, I accepted the moment for my own. I had a hope. I've had it a long time, my last hope. I could not resist the radiance that flooded my heart when you came in to me yesterday, of yourself, alone, of your own accord. I suddenly believed. Perhaps I have faith in it still. I will repay such noble frankness by being as frank. I don't want to be a sister of mercy for you. Perhaps I really may become a nurse, unless I happen appropriately to die to day. But if I do I won't be your nurse, though of course you need one as much as any crippled creature. I always fancied that you would take me to some place where there was a huge wicked spider, big as a man, and we should spend our lives looking at it and being afraid of it. That's how our love would spend itself. Appeal to Dashenka, she will go with you anywhere you like." "Can't you help thinking of her even now?" "Poor little spaniel, give her my greetings. Does she know that even in Switzerland you had fixed on her for your old age? What prudence, what foresight! Aie, who's that?" At the farther end of the room a door opened a crack, a head was thrust in and vanished again hurriedly. "Is that you, Alexey Yegorytch?" asked Stavrogin. "No, it's only I." Pyotr Stepanovitch thrust himself half in again. "How do you do, Lizaveta Nikolaevna? Good morning, anyway. I guessed I should find you both in this room. I have come for one moment, literally, Nikolay Vsyevolodovitch. I was anxious to have a couple of words with you at all costs. Absolutely necessary. Only a few words." Stavrogin moved towards him, but turned back to Liza at the third step. "If you hear anything directly, Liza, let me tell you I am to blame for it." She started and looked at him in dismay, but he hurriedly went out. Part 3, Chapter 3, Section 1. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine.
Part 3, Chapter 3, Section 2. Of the Possessed by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Translated by Constance Garnett. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Part 3, Chapter 3. A Romance Ended. Section 2. The room from which Pyotr Stepanovitch had peeped in was a large oval vestibule. Alexey Yegorytch had been sitting there before Pyotr Stepanovitch came in, but the latter sent him away. Stavrogin closed the door after him and stood expectant. Pyotr Stepanovitch looked rapidly and searchingly at him. "Well?" "If you know already," said Pyotr Stepanovitch hurriedly, his eyes looking as though they would dive into Stavrogin's soul, "then of course we are none of us to blame, above all not you, for it's such a concatenation, such a coincidence of events. In brief, you can't be legally implicated, and I've rushed here to tell you so beforehand." "Have they been burnt? Murdered?" "Murdered, but not burnt, that's the trouble. But I give you my word of honour that it's not been my fault, however much you may suspect me, eh? Do you want the whole truth? You see, the truth really did cross my mind. You hinted it yourself, not seriously, but teasing me, for of course you would not hint it seriously. But I couldn't bring myself to it, and wouldn't bring myself to it for anything, not for 100 roubles. And what was there to be gained by it? I mean for me, for me." He was in desperate haste, and his talk was like the clacking of a rattle. "But what a coincidence of circumstances! I gave that drunken fool Lebyadkin 230 roubles of my own money. Do you hear? My own money. There wasn't a rouble of yours, and, what's more, you know it yourself. The day before yesterday in the evening. Do you hear? Not yesterday after the matinée, but the day before yesterday. Make a note of it. It's a very important coincidence, for I did not know for certain at that time whether Lizaveta Nikolaevna would come to you or not. I gave my own money simply because you distinguished yourself by taking it into your head to betray your secret to every one. Well, I won't go into that, that's your affair, your chivalry, but I must own I was amazed, it was a knock‐down blow. And forasmuch as I was exceeding weary of these tragic stories, and let me tell you, I talk seriously though I do use biblical language, as it was all upsetting my plans in fact, I made up my mind at any cost, and without your knowledge, to pack the Lebyadkins off to Petersburg, especially as he was set on going himself. I made one mistake. I gave the money in your name. Was it a mistake or not? Perhaps it wasn't a mistake, eh? Listen now, listen how it has all turned out." In the heat of his talk he went close up to Stavrogin and took hold of the revers of his coat; really, it may have been on purpose. With a violent movement Stavrogin struck him on the arm. "Come, what is it? Give over. You'll break my arm. What matters is the way things have turned out," he rattled on, not in the least surprised at the blow. "I forked out the money in the evening on condition that his sister and he should set off early next morning. I trusted that rascal Liputin with the job of getting them into the train and seeing them off. But that beast Liputin wanted to play his schoolboy pranks on the public perhaps you heard? At the matinée? Listen, listen. They both got drunk, made up verses of which half are Liputin's. He rigged Lebyadkin out in a dress coat, assuring me meanwhile that he had packed him off that morning. But he kept him shut somewhere in a back room, till he thrust him on the platform at the matinée. But Lebyadkin got drunk quickly and unexpectedly. Then came the scandalous scene you know of, and then they got him home more dead than alive, and Liputin filched away the 200 roubles, leaving him only small change. But it appears unluckily that already that morning Lebyadkin had taken that 200 roubles out of his pocket, boasted of it, and shown it in undesirable quarters. And as that was just what Fedka was expecting, and as he had heard something at Kirillov's do you remember your hint? He made up his mind to take advantage of it. That's the whole truth. I am glad, anyway, that Fedka did not find the money. The rascal was reckoning on 1,000, you know. He was in a hurry and seems to have been frightened by the fire himself. Would you believe it, that fire came as a thunderbolt for me. Devil only knows what to make of it, it is taking things into their own hands. You see, as I expect so much of you, I will hide nothing from you. I've long been hatching this idea of a fire because it suits the national and popular taste, but I was keeping it for a critical moment, for that precious time when we should all rise up and they suddenly took it into their heads to do it, on their own initiative, without orders, now at the very moment when we ought to be lying low and keeping quiet. Such presumption! The fact is I've not got to the bottom of it yet. They talk about two Shpigulin men, but if there are any of our fellows in it, if any one of them has had a hand in it, so much the worse for him. You see what comes of letting people get ever so little out of hand. No, this democratic rabble, with its quintets, is a poor foundation. What we want is one magnificent, despotic will, like an idol, resting on something fundamental and external. Then the quintets will cringe into obedience and be obsequiously ready on occasion. But anyway, though, they are all crying out now that Stavrogin wanted his wife to be burnt, and that that's what caused the fire in the town. But why, are they all saying that? Well, not yet, and I must confess I have heard nothing of the sort, but what one can do with people, especially when they've been burnt out, vox populi, vox Dei. A stupid rumour is soon set going. But you really have nothing to be afraid of. From the legal point of view you are all right, and with your conscience also. For you didn't want it done, did you? There's no clue, nothing but the coincidence. The only thing is Fedka may remember what you said that night at Kirillov's, and what made you say it? But that proves nothing, and we shall stop Fedka's mouth. I shall stop it to day." "And weren't the bodies burnt at all?" "Not a bit. That ruffian could not manage anything properly. But I am glad, anyway, that you are so calm. For though you are not in any way to blame, even in thought, but all the same, and you must admit that all this settles your difficulties capitally. You are suddenly free and a widower, and can marry a charming girl this minute with a lot of money, who is already yours into the bargain. See what can be done by crude, simple coincidence, eh?" "Are you threatening me, you fool?" "Come, leave off, leave off! Here you are calling me a fool, and what a tone to use! You ought to be glad, yet you... I rushed here on purpose to let you know in good time. Besides, how could I threaten you? As if I cared for what I could get by threats. I want you to help from goodwill and not from fear. You are the light and the sun; it's I who am terribly afraid of you, not you of me. I am not Mavriky Nikolaevitch. And only fancy, as I flew here in a racing droshky, I saw Mavriky Nikolaevitch by the fence at the farthest corner of your garden. In his greatcoat, drenched through, he must have been sitting there all night. Queer goings on, how mad people can be!" "Mavriky Nikolaevitch, is that true?" "Yes, yes, he is sitting by the garden fence. About 300 paces from here, I think. I made haste to pass him, but he saw me. Didn't you know? In that case I am glad I didn't forget to tell you. A man like that is more dangerous than any one if he happens to have a revolver about him, and then the night, the sleet, or natural irritability. For after all he is in a nice position, ha ha! What do you think? Why is he sitting there?" "He is waiting for Lizaveta Nikolaevna, of course." "Well, why should she go out to him? And in such rain too. What a fool!" "She is just going out to him." "Eh! That's a piece of news. So then... But listen, her position is completely changed now. What does she want with Mavriky now? You are free, a widower, and can marry her to morrow. She doesn't know yet. Leave it to me and I'll arrange it all for you. Where is she? We must relieve her mind too." "Relieve her mind? Rather, let's go." "And do you suppose she won't guess what those dead bodies mean?" said Stavrogin, screwing up his eyes in a peculiar way. "Of course she won't," said Pyotr Stepanovitch with all the confidence of a perfect simpleton. "For legally... ech, what a man you are! What if she did guess? Women are so clever at shutting their eyes to such things, you don't understand women. Apart from its being altogether to her interest to marry you now, because there's no denying she's disgraced herself, apart from that, I talked to her of the boat, and I saw that one could affect her by it. So that shows you what the girl is made of. Don't be uneasy, she will step over those dead bodies without turning a hair, especially as you are not to blame for them, not in the least, are you? She will only keep them in reserve to use them against you when you've been married 2 or 3 years. Every woman saves up something of the sort out of her husband's past when she gets married, but by that time what may not happen in a year? Ha ha!" "If you've come in a racing droshky, take her to Mavriky Nikolaevitch now. She said just now that she could not endure me and would leave me, and she certainly will not accept my carriage." "What? Can she really be leaving? How can this have come about?" said Pyotr Stepanovitch, staring stupidly at him. "She's guessed somehow during this night that I don't love her, which she knew all along, indeed." "But don't you love her?" said Pyotr Stepanovitch with an expression of extreme surprise. "If so, why did you keep her when she came to you yesterday, instead of telling her plainly, like an honourable man, that you didn't care for her? That was horribly shabby on your part, and how mean you make me look in her eyes." Stavrogin suddenly laughed. "I am laughing at my monkey," he explained at once. "Ah! You saw that I was putting it on," cried Pyotr Stepanovitch, laughing too, with great enjoyment. "I did it to amuse you. Only fancy, as soon as you came out to me I guessed from your face that you'd been unlucky. A complete fiasco, perhaps, eh? There, I'll bet anything," he cried, almost gasping with delight, "that you've been sitting side by side in the drawing room all night, wasting your precious time discussing something lofty and elevated. There, forgive me, forgive me. It's not my business. I felt sure yesterday that it would all end in foolishness. I brought her to you simply to amuse you, and to show you that you wouldn't have a dull time with me. I shall be of use to you 100 times in that way. I always like pleasing people. If you don't want her now, which was what I was reckoning on when I came, then..." "So you brought her simply for my amusement?" "Why? What else?" "Not to make me kill my wife?" "Come, you've not killed her. What a tragic fellow you are!" "It's just the same. You killed her." "I didn't kill her. I tell you I had no hand in it. You are beginning to make me uneasy, though." "Go on. You said, 'If you don't want her now, then...'" "Then leave it to me, of course. I can quite easily marry her off to Mavriky Nikolaevitch, though I didn't make him sit down by the fence. Don't take that notion into your head. I am afraid of him now. You talk about my droshky, but I simply dash by. What if he has a revolver? It's a good thing I brought mine. Here it is." He brought a revolver out of his pocket, showed it, and hid it again at once. "I took it as I was coming such a long way. But I'll arrange all that for you in a twinkling. Her little heart is aching at this moment for Mavriky, it should be, anyway. And do you know, I am really rather sorry for her. If I take her to Mavriky she will begin about you directly. She will praise you to him and abuse him to his face. You know the heart of woman. There you are, laughing again. I am awfully glad that you are so cheerful now. Come, let's go. I'll begin with Mavriky right away, and about them, those who've been murdered, hadn't we better keep quiet now? She'll hear later on, anyway." "What will she hear? Who's been murdered? What were you saying about Mavriky Nikolaevitch?" said Liza, suddenly opening the door. "Ah, you've been listening." "What were you saying just now about Mavriky Nikolaevitch? Has he been murdered?" "Ah, then you didn't hear. Don't distress yourself. Mavriky Nikolaevitch is alive and well, and you can satisfy yourself of it in an instant, for he is here by the wayside, by the garden fence, and I believe he's been sitting there all night. He is drenched through in his greatcoat. He saw me as I drove past." "That's not true. You said murdered. Who's been murdered?" she insisted with agonising mistrust. "The only people who have been murdered are my wife, her brother Lebyadkin, and their servant," Stavrogin brought out firmly. Liza trembled and turned terribly pale. "A strange, brutal outrage, Lizaveta Nikolaevna. A simple case of robbery," Pyotr Stepanovitch rattled off at once. "Simply robbery under cover of the fire. The crime was committed by Fedka the convict, and it was all that fool Lebyadkin's fault for showing every one his money. I rushed here with the news. It fell on me like a thunderbolt. Stavrogin could hardly stand when I told him. We were deliberating here whether to tell you at once or not." "Nikolay Vsyevolodovitch, is he telling the truth?" Liza articulated faintly. "No, it's false." "False?" said Pyotr Stepanovitch, starting. "What do you mean by that?" "Heavens, I shall go mad!" cried Liza. "Do you understand, anyway, that he is mad now?" Pyotr Stepanovitch cried at the top of his voice. "After all, his wife has just been murdered. You see how white he is. Why, he has been with you the whole night. He hasn't left your side a minute. How can you suspect him?" "Nikolay Vsyevolodovitch, tell me as before God, are you guilty or not, and I swear I'll believe your word as though it were God's, and I'll follow you to the end of the earth. Yes, I will. I'll follow you like a dog." "Why are you tormenting her, you fantastic creature?" cried Pyotr Stepanovitch in exasperation. "Lizaveta Nikolaevna, upon my oath, you can crush me into powder, but he is not guilty. On the contrary, it has crushed him, and he is raving, you see that. He is not to blame in any way, not in any way, not even in thought. It's all the work of robbers who will probably be found within a week and flogged. It's all the work of Fedka the convict, and some Shpigulin men, all the town is agog with it. That's why I say so too." "Is that right? Is that right?" Liza waited trembling for her final sentence. I did not kill them, and I was against it, but I knew they were going to be killed, and I did not stop the murderers. Leave me, Liza," Stavrogin brought out, and he walked into the drawing room. Liza hid her face in her hands and walked out of the house. Pyotr Stepanovitch was rushing after her, but at once hurried back and went into the drawing room. "So that's your line? That's your line? So there's nothing you are afraid of?" He flew at Stavrogin in an absolute fury, muttering incoherently, scarcely able to find words, and foaming at the mouth. Stavrogin stood in the middle of the room and did not answer a word. He clutched a lock of his hair in his left hand and smiled helplessly. Pyotr Stepanovitch pulled him violently by the sleeve. "Is it all over with you? So that's the line you are taking? You will inform against all of us, and go to a monastery yourself or to the devil. But I'll do that for you, though you are not afraid of me." "Ah, that's you chattering," said Stavrogin, noticing him at last. "Run," he said, coming to himself suddenly. "Run after her. Order the carriage, don't leave her. Run, run! Take her home so that no one may know, and that she mayn't go there, to the bodies, to the bodies. Force her to get into the carriage. Alexey Yegorytch! Alexey Yegorytch!" "Stay, don't shout. By now she is in Mavriky's arms. Mavriky won't put her into her carriage. Stay! There's something more important than the carriage." He seized his revolver again. Stavrogin looked at him gravely. "Very well, kill me," he said softly, almost conciliatorily. "Foo! Damn it! What a maze of false sentiment a man can get into!" said Pyotr Stepanovitch, shaking with rage. "Yes, really, you ought to be killed. She ought simply to spit at you. Fine sort of magic boat you are. You are a broken down, leaky old hulk. You ought to pull yourself together if only from spite. Ech! Why, what difference would it make to you since you asked for a bullet through your brains yourself?" Stavrogin smiled strangely. "If you were not such a buffoon I might perhaps have said yes now, if you had only a grain of sense." "I am a buffoon, but I don't want you, my better half, to be one. Do you understand me?" Stavrogin did understand, though perhaps no one else did. Shatov, for instance, was astonished when Stavrogin told him that Pyotr Stepanovitch had enthusiasm. "Go to the devil now, and to morrow perhaps I may wring something out of myself. Come to morrow." "Yes? Yes? How can I tell? Go to hell, go to hell!" And he walked out of the room. "Perhaps, after all, it may be for the best," Pyotr Stepanovitch muttered to himself as he hid the revolver. End of Part 3, Chapter 3, Section 2. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Part 3, Chapter 3, Section 3 of The Possessed by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Translated by Constance Garnett. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Part 3, Chapter 3. A Romance Ended. Section 3. He rushed off to overtake Lizaveta Nikolaevna. She had not got far away, only a few steps from the house. She had been detained by Alexey Yegorytch, who was following a step behind her in a tail coat, and without a hat; his head was bowed respectfully. He was persistently entreating her to wait for a carriage. The old man was alarmed and almost in tears. "Go along, your master is asking for tea, and there's no one to give it to him," said Pyotr Stepanovitch, pushing him away. He took Liza's arm. She did not pull her arm away, but she seemed hardly to know what she was doing. She was still dazed. "To begin with, you are going the wrong way," babbled Pyotr Stepanovitch. "We ought to go this way, and not by the garden, and secondly, walking is impossible in any case. It's over 2 miles, and you are not properly dressed. If you would wait a second, I came in a droshky, the horse is in the yard. I'll get it instantly, put you in, and get you home so that no one sees you." "How kind you are," said Liza graciously. "Oh, not at all. Any humane man in my position would do the same." Liza looked at him and was surprised. "Good heavens! Why, I thought it was that old man here still." "Listen, I am awfully glad that you take it like this, because it's all such a frightfully stupid convention, and since it's come to that, hadn't I better tell the old man to get the carriage at once? It's only a matter of 10 minutes, and we'll turn back and wait in the porch, eh?" "I want first... Where are those murdered people?" "Ah, what next! That was what I was afraid of. No, we'd better leave those wretched creatures alone. It's no use your looking at them." "I know where they are, I know that house." "Well, what if you do know it? Come, it's raining, and there's a fog. A nice job this sacred duty I've taken upon myself. Listen, Lizaveta Nikolaevna, it's one of two alternatives. Either you come with me in the droshky, in that case wait here and don't take another step, for if we go another 20 steps we must be seen by Mavriky Nikolaevitch." "Mavriky Nikolaevitch? Where? Where?" "Well, if you want to go with him I'll take you a little farther, if you like, and show you where he sits, but I don't care to go up to him just now. No, thank you." "He is waiting for me? Good God!" She suddenly stopped and a flush of colour flooded her face. "Oh, come now, if he is an unconventional man... You know, Lizaveta Nikolaevna, it's none of my business. I am a complete outsider, and you know that yourself. But still I wish you well. If your ferry boat has failed you, if it has turned out to be nothing more than a rotten old hulk, only fit to be chopped up..." "Ah, that's fine, that's lovely!" cried Liza. "Lovely, and yet your tears are falling. You must have spirit. You must be as good as a man in every way. In our age, when women... oh, foo, hang it!" Pyotr Stepanovitch was on the point of spitting. "And the chief point is that there is nothing to regret. It may all turn out for the best. Mavriky Nikolaevitch is a man, in fact he is a man of feeling, though not talkative. But that's a good thing too, as long as he has no conventional notions, of course." "Lovely, lovely!" Liza laughed hysterically. "Well, hang it all, Lizaveta Nikolaevna," said Pyotr Stepanovitch, suddenly piqued. "I am simply here on your account. It's nothing to me. I helped you yesterday when you wanted it yourself. To day... well, you can see Mavriky Nikolaevitch from here, there he's sitting, he doesn't see us. I say, Lizaveta Nikolaevna, have you ever read Polenka Saxe?" "What's that?" "It's the name of a novel, Polenka Saxe. I read it when I was a student. In it a very wealthy official of some sort, Saxe, arrested his wife at a summer villa for infidelity. But hang on, it's no consequence. You'll see, Mavriky Nikolaevitch will make you an offer before you get home. He doesn't see us yet." "Ach, don't let him see us!" Liza cried suddenly, like a mad creature. Come away, to the woods, to the fields!" And she ran back. "Lizaveta Nikolaevna, this is such cowardice!" cried Pyotr Stepanovitch, running after her. "And why don't you want him to see you? On the contrary, you must look him straight in the face, with pride. If it's some feeling about that... some maidenly... that's such a prejudice, so out of date. But where are you going? Where are you going? Ach, she is running! Better go back to Stavrogin's and take my droshky. Where are you going? That's the way to the fields. There... she's fallen down." He stopped. Liza was flying along like a bird, not conscious where she was going, and Pyotr Stepanovitch was already 50 paces behind her. She stumbled over a mound of earth and fell down. At the same moment there was the sound of a terrible shout from behind. It came from Mavriky Nikolaevitch, who had seen her flight and her fall, and was running to her across the field. In a flash Pyotr Stepanovitch had retired into Stavrogin's gateway to make haste and get into his droshky. Mavriky Nikolaevitch was already standing in terrible alarm by Liza, who had risen to her feet. He was bending over her and holding her hands in both of his. All the incredible surroundings of this meeting overwhelmed him, and tears were rolling down his cheeks. He saw the woman for whom he had such reverent devotion running madly across the fields, at such an hour, in such weather, with nothing over her dress, the gay dress she wore the day before, now crumpled and muddy from her fall. He could not utter a word. He took off his greatcoat and with trembling hands put it round her shoulders. Suddenly he uttered a cry, feeling that she had pressed her lips to his hand. "Liza," he cried, "I am no good for anything, but don't drive me away from you." "Oh, no, let us make haste away from here. Don't leave me." And seizing his hand she drew him after her. "Mavriky Nikolaevitch," she suddenly dropped her voice timidly, "I kept a bold face there all the time, but now I am afraid of death. I shall die soon, very soon, but I am afraid, I am afraid to die," she whispered, pressing his hand tight. "Oh, if there were someone," he looked round in despair, "some passer by! You will get your feet wet, you... will lose your reason." "It's all right.
"It's all right," she tried to reassure him. "That's right, I am not so frightened with you. Hold my hand, lead me. Where are we going now? Home? No, I want first to see the people who have been murdered. His wife has been murdered, they say, and he says he killed her himself. But that's not true, is it? I want to see for myself those three who've been killed on my account. It's because of them his love for me has grown cold since last night. I shall see and find out everything. Make haste, make haste! I know the house. There's a fire there. Mavriky Nikolaevitch, my dear one, don't forgive me in my shame. Why forgive me? Why are you crying? Give me a blow and kill me here in the field like a dog." "No one is your judge now," Mavriky Nikolaevitch pronounced firmly. "God forgive you. I least of all can be your judge." But it would be strange to describe their conversation. And meanwhile they walked hand in hand quickly, hurrying as though they were crazy. They were going straight towards the fire. Mavriky Nikolaevitch still had hopes of meeting a cart at least, but no one came that way. A mist of fine, drizzling rain enveloped the whole country, swallowing up every ray of light, every gleam of colour, and transforming everything into one smoky, leaden, indistinguishable mass. It had long been daylight, yet it seemed as though it were still night. And suddenly, in this cold foggy mist, there appeared coming towards them a strange and absurd figure. Picturing it now, I think I should not have believed my eyes if I had been in Lizaveta Nikolaevna's place. Yet she uttered a cry of joy and recognised the approaching figure at once. It was Stepan Trofimovitch. How he had gone off, how the insane, impracticable idea of his flight came to be carried out, of that later. I will only mention that he was in a fever that morning, yet even illness did not prevent his starting. He was walking resolutely on the damp ground. It was evident that he had planned the enterprise to the best of his ability, alone with his inexperience and lack of practical sense. He wore travelling dress, that is, a greatcoat with a wide patent leather belt, fastened with a buckle, and a pair of new high boots pulled over his trousers. Probably he had for some time past pictured a traveller as looking like this, and the belt and the high boots with the shining tops, like a hussar's in which he could hardly walk, had been ready some time before. A broad brimmed hat, a knitted scarf, twisted close round his neck, a stick in his right hand, and an exceedingly small but extremely tightly packed bag in his left, completed his get up. He had besides, in the same right hand, an open umbrella. These three objects, the umbrella, the stick, and the bag, had been very awkward to carry for the first mile, and had begun to be heavy by the second. "Can it really be you?" cried Liza, looking at him with distressed wonder, after her first rush of instinctive gladness. "Lise!" cried Stepan Trofimovitch, rushing to her almost in delirium too. "Chère, chère, can you be out too, in such a fog? You see the glow of fire. Vous êtes malheureuse, n'est-ce pas? I see, I see. Don't tell me, but don't question me either. Nous sommes tous malheureux, mais il faut le pardonner tout. Pardonnons, Lise, and let us be free for ever. To be quit of the world and be completely free. Il faut pardonner, pardonner et pardonner." "But why are you kneeling down?" "Because, taking leave of the world, I want to take leave of all my past in your person." He wept and raised both her hands to his tear stained eyes. "I kneel to all that was beautiful in my life. I kiss and give thanks. Now I've torn myself in half, left behind a mad visionary who dreamed of soaring to the sky. 21 here, a shattered, frozen old man, a tutor chez ce marchand, s'il existe pourtant ce marchand. But how drenched you are, Lise!" he cried, jumping on to his feet, feeling that his knees too were soaked by the wet earth. "And how is it possible? You are in such a dress, and on foot, and in these fields. You are crying. Vous êtes malheureuse. Bah, I did hear something, but where have you come from now?" He asked hurried questions with an uneasy air, looking in extreme bewilderment at Mavriky Nikolaevitch. "Mais savez-vous l'heure qu'il est? Stepan Trofimovitch, have you heard anything about the people who've been murdered? Is it true? Is it true?" "These people, I saw the glow of their work all night. They were bound to end in this." His eyes flashed again. "I am fleeing away from madness, from a delirious dream. I am fleeing away to seek for Russia. Existe t elle, la Russie? Bah! C'est vous, cher capitaine. I've never doubted that I should meet you somewhere on some high adventure. But take my umbrella and... Why must you be on foot? For God's sake, do at least take my umbrella, for I shall hire a carriage somewhere in any case. I am on foot because Nastasya, would have shouted for the benefit of the whole street if she'd found out I was going away. So I slipped away as far as possible incognito. I don't know, in the Voice they write of there being brigands everywhere, but I thought surely I shouldn't meet a brigand the moment I came out on the road. Chère Lise, I thought you said something of someone's being murdered. Oh, mon Dieu, you are ill!" Come along!" cried Liza, almost in hysterics, drawing Mavriky Nikolaevitch after her again. "Wait a minute, Stepan Trofimovitch." She came back suddenly to him. "Stay, poor darling, let me sign you with the cross. Perhaps it would be better to put you under control, but I'd rather make the sign of the cross over you. You, too, pray for poor Liza. Just a little, don't bother too much about it. Mavriky Nikolaevitch, give that baby back his umbrella. You must give it to him. That's right. Come, let us go, let us go." They reached the fatal house at the very moment when the huge crowd which had gathered round it had already heard a good deal of Stavrogin and of how much it was to his interest to murder his wife. Yet, I repeat, the immense majority went on listening without moving or uttering a word. The only people who were excited were bawling drunkards and excitable individuals of the same sort as the gesticulatory cabinet maker. Every one knew the latter as a man really of mild disposition, but he was liable on occasion to get excited and to fly off at a tangent if anything struck him in a certain way. I did not see Liza and Mavriky Nikolaevitch arrive. Petrified with amazement, I first noticed Liza some distance away in the crowd, and I did not at once catch sight of Mavriky Nikolaevitch. I fancy there was a moment when he fell 2 or 3 steps behind her or was pressed back by the crush. Liza, forcing her way through the crowd, seeing and noticing nothing round her, like one in a delirium, like a patient escaped from a hospital, attracted attention only too quickly, of course. There arose a hubbub of loud talking and at last sudden shouts. Some one bawled out, "It's Stavrogin's woman!" and on the other side, "It's not enough to murder them, she wants to look at them." All at once I saw an arm raised above her head from behind and suddenly brought down upon it. Liza fell to the ground. We heard a fearful scream from Mavriky Nikolaevitch as he dashed to her assistance and struck with all his strength the man who stood between him and Liza. But at that instant the same cabinet maker seized him with both arms from behind. For some minutes nothing could be distinguished in the scrimmage that followed. I believe Liza got up, but was knocked down by another blow. Suddenly the crowd parted and a small space was left empty round Liza's prostrate figure, and Mavriky Nikolaevitch, frantic with grief and covered with blood, was standing over her, screaming, weeping, and wringing his hands. I don't remember exactly what followed after. I only remember that they began to carry Liza away. I ran after her. She was still alive and perhaps still conscious. The cabinet maker and 3 other men in the crowd were seized. These 3 still deny having taken any part in the dastardly deed, stubbornly maintaining that they have been arrested by mistake. Perhaps it's the truth. Though the evidence against the cabinet maker is clear, he is so irrational that he is still unable to explain what happened coherently. I, too, as a spectator, though at some distance, had to give evidence at the inquest. I declared that it had all happened entirely accidentally through the action of men perhaps moved by ill feeling, yet scarcely conscious of what they were doing, drunk and irresponsible. I am of that opinion to this day. End of Part 3, Chapter 3. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Part 3, Chapter 4, Section 1 of The Possessed by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Translated by Constance Garnett. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Part 3, Chapter 4, The Last Resolution. Section 1. That morning many people saw Pyotr Stepanovitch. All who saw him remembered that he was in a particularly excited state. At 2 o'clock he went to see Gaganov, who had entered from the country only the day before, and whose house was full of visitors hotly discussing the events of the previous day.
Pyotr Stepanovitch talked more than any one, and made them listen to him. He was always considered among us as a chatterbox of a student with a screw loose, but now he talked of Yulia Mihailovna, and in the general excitement the theme was an enthralling one. As one who had recently been her intimate and confidential friend, he disclosed many new and unexpected details concerning her. Incidentally, and of course unguardedly, he repeated some of her own remarks about persons known to all in the town, and thereby piqued their vanity. He dropped it all in a vague and rambling way, like a man free from guile, driven by his sense of honour to the painful necessity of clearing up a perfect mountain of misunderstandings, and so simple‐hearted that he hardly knew where to begin and where to leave off. He let slip in a rather unguarded way, too, that Yulia Mihailovna knew the whole secret of Stavrogin, and that she had been at the bottom of the whole intrigue. She had taken him in, too, for he, Pyotr Stepanovitch, had also been in love with this unhappy Liza, yet he had been so hoodwinked that he had almost taken her to Stavrogin himself in the carriage. "Yes, yes, it's all very well for you to laugh, gentlemen, but if only I'd known, if I'd known how it would end," he concluded. To various excited inquiries about Stavrogin, he bluntly replied that, in his opinion, the catastrophe to the Lebyadkins was a pure coincidence, and that it was all Lebyadkin's own fault for displaying his money. He explained this particularly well. One of his listeners observed that it was no good his pretending, that he had eaten and drunk and almost slept at Yulia Mihailovna's, yet now he was the first to blacken her character, and that this was by no means such a fine thing to do as he supposed. But Pyotr Stepanovitch immediately defended himself. "I ate and drank there, not because I had no money, and it's not my fault that I was invited there. Allow me to judge for myself how far I need to be grateful for that." The general impression was in his favour. He may be rather absurd, and of course he is a nonsensical fellow, yet still he is not responsible for Yulia Mihailovna's foolishness. On the contrary, it appears that he tried to stop her. About 2 o'clock the news suddenly came that Stavrogin, about whom there was so much talk, had suddenly left for Petersburg by the midday train. This interested people immensely; many of them frowned. Pyotr Stepanovitch was so much struck that I was told he turned quite pale and cried out strangely, "Why, how could they have let him go?" He hurried away from Gaganov's forthwith, yet he was seen in 2 or 3 other houses. Towards dusk he succeeded in getting in to see Yulia Mihailovna, though he had the greatest pains to do so, as she had absolutely refused to see him. I heard of this from the lady herself only 3 weeks afterwards, just before her departure for Petersburg. She gave me no details, but observed with a shudder that he had on that occasion astounded her beyond all belief. I imagine that all he did was to terrify her by threatening to charge her with being an accomplice if she said anything. The necessity for this intimidation arose from his plans at the moment, of which she, of course, knew nothing, and only later, 5 days afterwards, she guessed why he had been so doubtful of her reticence, and so afraid of a new outburst of indignation on her part. Between 7 and 8 o'clock, when it was dusk, all the 5 members of the quintet met together at Ensign Urkel's lodgings in a little crooked house at the end of the town. The meeting had been fixed by Pyotr Stepanovitch himself, but he was unpardonably late, and the members waited over an hour for him. This Ensign Erkel was that young officer who had sat the whole evening at Virginsky's, with a pencil in his hand and a note book before him. He had not long been in the town. He lodged alone with 2 old women, sisters, in a secluded by street, and was shortly to leave the town. A meeting at his house was less likely to attract notice than anywhere. This strange boy was distinguished by extreme taciturnity. He was capable of sitting for a dozen evenings in succession in noisy company, with the most extraordinary conversation going on around him, without uttering a word, though he listened with extreme attention, watching the speakers with his childlike eyes. His face was very pretty, and even had a certain look of cleverness. He did not belong to the quintet. It was supposed that he had some special job of a purely practical character. It is known now that he had nothing of the sort, and probably did not understand his position himself. It was simply that he was filled with hero worship for Pyotr Stepanovitch, whom he had only lately met. If he had met a monster of iniquity who had incited him to found a band of brigands on the pretext of some romantic and socialistic object, and as a test had bidden him rob and murder the first peasant he met, he would certainly have obeyed and done it. He had an invalid mother to whom he sent half of his scanty pay. And how she must have kissed that poor little flaxen head, how she must have trembled and prayed over it. I go into these details about him because I feel very sorry for him. Our fellows were excited. The events of the previous night had made a great impression on them, and I fancy they were in a panic. The simple disorderliness in which they had so zealously and systematically taken part had ended in a way they had not expected. The fire in the night, the murder of the Lebyadkins, the savage brutality of the crowd with Liza, had been a series of surprises which they had not anticipated in their programme. They hotly accused the hand that had guided them of despotism and duplicity. In fact, while they were waiting for Pyotr Stepanovitch, they worked each other up to such a point that they resolved again to ask him for a definite explanation, and if he evaded again, as he had done before, to dissolve the quintet and to found instead a new secret society for the propagation of ideas, and on their own initiative on the basis of democracy and equality. Liputin, Shigalov, and the authority on the peasantry supported this plan. Lyamshin said nothing, though he looked approving. Virginsky hesitated and wanted to hear Pyotr Stepanovitch first. It was decided to hear Pyotr Stepanovitch, but still he did not come. Such casualness added fuel to the flames. Erkel was absolutely silent, and did nothing but order the tea, which he brought from his landlady's in glasses on a tray, not bringing in the samovar nor allowing the servant to enter. Pyotr Stepanovitch did not turn up till 8:30. With rapid steps he went up to the circular table before the sofa, round which the company were seated. He kept his cap in his hand and refused tea. He looked angry, severe, and supercilious. He must have observed at once from their faces that they were mutinous. "Before I open my mouth you've got something hidden. Out with it." Liputin began "in the name of all," and declared in a voice quivering with resentment that if things were going on like that they might as well blow their brains out. Oh, they were not at all afraid to blow their brains out, they were quite ready to, in fact, but only to serve the common cause (a general movement of approbation). So he must be more open with them so that they might always know beforehand, or else what would things be coming to? Again a stir and some guttural sounds. To behave like this was humiliating and dangerous. We don't say so because we are afraid, but if one acts and the rest are only pawns, then one would blunder and all would be lost. Exclamations. "Yes, yes." General approval. "Damn it all, what do you want?" "What connection is there between the common cause and the petty intrigues of Mr. Stavrogin?" cried Liputin, boiling over. "Suppose he is in some mysterious relation to the centre, if that legendary centre really exists at all, it's no concern of ours. And meantime a murder has been committed, the police have been roused. If they follow the thread they may find what it starts from." "If Stavrogin and you are caught, we shall be caught too," added the authority on the peasantry. "And to no good purpose for the common cause," Virginsky concluded despondently. "What nonsense! The murder is a chance crime. It was committed by Fedka for the sake of robbery." "H'm! Strange coincidence, though," said Liputin, wriggling. "And if you will have it, it's all through you." "Through us?" "In the first place, you, Liputin, had a share in the intrigue yourself. And the second chief point is, you were ordered to get Lebyadkin away and given money to do it. And what did you do? If you'd got him away nothing would have happened." "But wasn't it you yourself who suggested the idea that it would be a good thing to set him on to read his verses?" "An idea is not a command. The command was to get him away." "Command? Rather a queer word. On the contrary, your orders were to delay sending him off." "You made a mistake and showed your foolishness and self will. The murder was the work of Fedka, and he carried it out alone for the sake of robbery. You heard the gossip and believed it. You were scared. Stavrogin is not such a fool, And the proof of that is he left the town at 12 o'clock after an interview with the vice governor. If there were anything in it, they would not let him go to Petersburg in broad daylight." "But we are not making out that Mr. Stavrogin committed the murder himself," Liputin rejoined spitefully and unceremoniously. "He may have known nothing about it, like me. And you know very well that I knew nothing about it, though I am mixed up in it like mutton in a hash." "Whom are you accusing?" said Pyotr Stepanovitch, looking at him darkly. "Those whose interest it is to burn down towns." "You make matters worse by wriggling out of it. However, won't you read this and pass it to the others, simply as a fact of interest?" He pulled out of his pocket Lebyadkin's anonymous letter to Lembke and handed it to Liputin. The latter read it, was evidently surprised, and passed it thoughtfully to his neighbour. The letter quickly went the round. "Is that really Lebyadkin's handwriting?" observed Shigalov. "It is," answered Liputin and Tolkatchenko, the authority on the peasantry. "I simply brought it as a fact of interest, and because I knew you were so sentimental over Lebyadkin," repeated Pyotr Stepanovitch, taking the letter back. "So it turns out, gentlemen, that a stray Fedka relieves us, quite by chance, of a dangerous man. That's what chance does sometimes. It's instructive, isn't it?" The members exchanged rapid glances. "And now, gentlemen, it's my turn to ask questions," said Pyotr Stepanovitch, assuming an air of dignity. "Let me know what business you had to set fire to the town without permission." "What's this? We set fire to the town? That is laying the blame on others," they exclaimed. "I quite understand that you carried the game too far," Pyotr Stepanovitch persisted stubbornly. "But it's not a matter of petty scandals with Yulia Mihailovna. I brought you here, gentlemen, to explain to you the greatness of the danger you have so stupidly incurred, which is a menace to much besides yourselves." "Excuse me, we, on the contrary, were intending just now to point out to you the greatness of the despotism and unfairness you have shown in taking such a serious and also strange step without consulting the members," Virginsky, who had been hitherto silent, protested, almost with indignation. "And so you deny it? But I maintain that you set fire to the town, you and none but you. Gentlemen, don't tell lies. I have good evidence. By your rashness you expose the common cause to danger. You are only one knot in an endless network of knots, and your duty is blind obedience to the centre. Yet 3 men of you incited the Shpigulin men to set fire to the town without the least instruction to do so, and the fire has taken place." "What 3? What 3 of us?" "The day before yesterday, at 3 o'clock in the night, you, Tolkatchenko, were inciting Fomka Zavyalov at the Forget Me Not." "Upon my word," cried the latter, jumping up, "I scarcely said a word to him, and what I did say was without intention, simply because he had been flogged that morning. And I dropped it at once, I saw he was too drunk. If you had not referred to it, I should not have thought of it again. A word could not set the place on fire. You are like a man who should be surprised that a tiny spark could blow a whole powder magazine into the air." "I spoke in a whisper in his ear, in a corner. How could you have heard of it?" Tolkatchenko reflected suddenly. "I was sitting there under the table. Don't disturb yourselves, gentlemen, I know every step you take. You smile sarcastically, Mr. Liputin. But I know, for instance, that you pinched your wife black and blue at midnight 3 days ago in your bedroom as you were going to bed." Liputin's mouth fell open and he turned pale. It was afterwards found out that he knew of this exploit of Liputin's from Agafya, Liputin's servant, whom he had paid from the beginning to spy on him. This only came out later. "May I state a fact?" said Shigalov, getting up. "State it." Shigalov sat down and pulled himself together. "So far as I understand and it's impossible not to understand it you yourself at first, and a second time later, drew with great eloquence, but too theoretically, a picture of Russia covered with an endless network of knots. Each of these centres of activity, proselytizing and ramifying endlessly, aims by systematic denunciation to injure the prestige of local authority, to reduce the villages to confusion, to spread cynicism and scandals, together with complete disbelief in everything and an eagerness for something better, and finally, by means of fires, as a preeminently national method,
to reduce the country at a given moment, if need be, to desperation. Are those your words which I tried to remember accurately? Is that the programme you gave us as the authorized representative of the Central Committee, which is to this day utterly unknown to us and almost like a myth?" "It's correct, only you are very tedious." "Every one has a right to express himself in his own way. Giving us to understand that the separate knots of the general network already covering Russia number by now several hundred, and propounding the theory that, if every one does his work successfully, all Russia at a given moment at a signal." "Ah, damn it all! I have enough to do without you," cried Pyotr Stepanovitch, twisting in his chair. "Very well, I'll cut it short, and I'll end simply by asking if we've seen the disorderly scenes, we've seen the discontent of the people, we've seen and taken part in the downfall of local administration, and finally we've seen with our own eyes the town on fire. What do you find amiss? Isn't that your programme? What can you blame us for?" "Acting on your own initiative?" Pyotr Stepanovitch cried furiously. "While I am here you ought not to have dared to act without my permission. Enough! We are on the eve of betrayal, and perhaps to morrow or to night you'll be seized. So there! I have authentic information." At this all were agape with astonishment. "You will be arrested not only as the instigators of the fire, but as a quintet. The traitor knows the whole secret of the network. So you see what a mess you've made of it." "Stavrogin, no doubt," cried Liputin. "What? Why Stavrogin?" Pyotr Stepanovitch seemed suddenly taken aback. "Hang it off," he cried, pulling himself together at once. "It's Shatov. I believe you all know now that Shatov in his time was one of the society. I must tell you that, watching him through persons he does not suspect, I found out to my amazement that he knows all about the organisation of the network and everything, in fact. To save himself from being charged with having formerly belonged, he will give information against all. He has been hesitating up till now, and I have spared him. Your fire has decided him. He is shaken and will hesitate no longer. To morrow we shall be arrested as incendiaries and political offenders." "Is it true? How does Shatov know?" The excitement was indescribable. "It's all perfectly true. I have no right to reveal the source from which I learnt it, or how I discovered it, but I tell you what I can do for you meanwhile. Through one person I can act on Shatov so that without his suspecting it he will put off giving information, but not more than for 24 hours." All were silent. "We really must send him to the devil!" Tolkatchenko was the first to exclaim. "It ought to have been done long ago," Lyamshin put in malignantly, striking the table with his fist. "But how is it to be done?" muttered Liputin. Pyotr Stepanovitch at once took up the question and unfolded his plan. The plan was the following day at nightfall to draw Shatov away to a secluded spot to hand over the secret printing press which had been in his keeping, and was buried there, and to settle things. He went into various essential details which we will omit here, and explained minutely Shatov's present ambiguous attitude to the Central Society, of which the reader knows already. "That's all very well," Liputin observed irresolutely, "but since it will be another adventure of the same sort, it will make too great a sensation." "No doubt," assented Pyotr Stepanovitch, "but I've provided against that. We have the means of averting suspicion completely." And with the same minuteness he told them about Kirillov, of his intention to shoot himself, and of his promise to wait for a signal from them and to leave a letter behind him taking on himself anything they dictated to him, all of which the reader knows already. His determination to take his own life a philosophic, or as I should call it, insane decision has become known there, Pyotr Stepanovitch went on to explain. There, not a thread, not a grain of dust is overlooked, everything is turned to the service of the cause. Foreseeing how useful it might be, and satisfying themselves that his intention was quite serious, they had offered him the means to come to Russia. He was set for some reason on dying in Russia, gave him a commission which he promised to carry out, and he had done so, and had moreover bound him by a promise, as you already know, to commit suicide only when he was told to. He promised everything. You must note that he belongs to the organization on a particular footing and is anxious to be of service. More than that I can't tell you. To morrow, after Shatov's affair, I'll dictate a note to him saying that he is responsible for his death. That will seem very plausible. They were friends and travelled together to America. There they quarrelled, and it will all be explained in the letter, and perhaps, if it seems feasible, we might dictate something more to Kirillov. Something about the manifestoes, for instance, and even perhaps about the fire. But I'll think about that. You needn't worry yourselves, he has no prejudices, he'll sign anything." There were expressions of doubt. It sounded a fantastic story. But they had all heard more or less about Kirillov, Liputin more than all. "He may change his mind and not want to," said Shigalov. "He is a madman anyway, so he has not much to build upon." "Don't be uneasy, gentlemen, he will want to," Pyotr Stepanovitch snapped out. "I am obliged by our agreement to give him warning the day before, so it must be to day. I invite Liputin to go with me at once to see him and make certain, and he will tell you, gentlemen, when he comes back to day, if need be whether what I say is true. However," he broke off suddenly, with intense exasperation, as though he suddenly felt he was doing people like them too much honour by wasting time in persuading them, "however, do as you please. If you don't decide to do it, the union is broken up, but solely through your insubordination and treachery. In that case we are all independent from this moment. But under those circumstances, besides the unpleasantness of Shatov's betrayal and its consequences, you will have brought upon yourselves another little unpleasantness of which you were definitely warned when the union was formed. As far as I am concerned, I am not much afraid of you gentlemen. Don't imagine that I am so involved with you, but that's no matter." "Yes, we decide to do it," Liputin pronounced. "There's no other way out of it," muttered Tolkatchenko. "And if only Liputin confirms about Kirillov, then..." "I am against it. With all my soul and strength I protest against such a murderous decision," said Virginsky, standing up. "But?" asked Pyotr Stepanovitch. "But what?" "You said 'but,' and I am waiting." "I don't think I did say 'but.' I only meant to say that if you decide to do it, then..." "Then?" Virginsky did not answer. "I think that one is at liberty to neglect danger to one's own life," said Erkel, suddenly opening his mouth. "But if it may injure the cause, then I consider one ought not to dare to neglect danger to one's life." He broke off in confusion, blushing. Absorbed as they all were in their own ideas, they all looked at him in amazement. It was such a surprise that he too could speak. "I am for the cause," Virginsky pronounced suddenly. Every one got up. It was decided to communicate once more and make final arrangements at midday on the morrow, though without meeting. The place where the printing press was hidden was announced, and each was assigned his part and his duty. Liputin and Pyotr Stepanovitch promptly set off together to Kirillov. End of Part 3, Chapter 4, Section 1. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Part 3, Chapter 4, Section 2 of The Possessed by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Translated by Constance Garnett. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Part 3, Chapter 4. The Last Resolution. Section 2. All our fellows believed that Shatov was going to betray them, but they also believed that Pyotr Stepanovitch was playing with them like pawns. And yet they knew, too, that in any case they would all meet on the spot next day, and that Shatov's fate was sealed. They suddenly felt like flies caught in a web by a huge spider. They were furious, but they were trembling with terror. Pyotr Stepanovitch, of course, had treated them badly. It might all have gone off far more harmoniously and easily if he had taken the trouble to embellish the facts ever so little. Instead of putting the facts in a decorous light, as an exploit worthy of ancient Rome or something of the sort, he simply appealed to their animal fears and laid stress on the danger to their own skins. Which was simply insulting. Of course there was a struggle for existence in everything, and there was no other principle in nature. They all knew that. But still... But Pyotr Stepanovitch had no time to trot out the Romans.
He was completely thrown out of his reckoning. Stavrogin's flight had astounded and crushed him. It was a lie when he said that Stavrogin had seen the vice governor. What worried Pyotr Stepanovitch was that Stavrogin had gone off without seeing any one, even his mother. And it was certainly strange that he had been allowed to leave without hindrance. The authorities were called to account for it afterwards. Pyotr Stepanovitch had been making inquiries all day, but so far had found out nothing, and he had never been so upset. And how could he? How could he give up Stavrogin all at once like this? That was why he could not be very tender with the quintet. Besides, they tied his hands. He had already decided to gallop after Stavrogin at once, and meanwhile he was detained by Shatov. He had to cement the quintet together once for all, in case of emergency. Pity to waste them, they might be of use. That, I imagine, was his way of reasoning. As for Shatov, Pyotr Stepanovitch was firmly convinced that he would betray them. All that he had told the others about it was a lie. He had never seen the document nor heard of it, but he thought it as certain as that twice two makes four. It seemed to him that what had happened, the death of Liza, the death of Marya Timofyevna, would be too much for Shatov, and that he would make up his mind at once. Who knows? Perhaps he had grounds for supposing it. It is known, too, that he hated Shatov personally. There had at some time been a quarrel between them, and Pyotr Stepanovitch never forgave an offence. I am convinced, indeed, that this was his leading motive. We have narrow brick pavements in our town, and in some streets only raised wooden planks instead of a pavement. Pyotr Stepanovitch walked in the middle of the pavement, taking up the whole of it, utterly regardless of Liputin, who had no room to walk beside him, and so had to hurry a step behind or run in the muddy road if he wanted to speak to him. Pyotr Stepanovitch suddenly remembered how he had lately splashed through the mud to keep pace with Stavrogin, who had walked, as he was doing now, taking up the whole pavement. He recalled the whole scene, and rage choked him. But Liputin, too, was choking with resentment. Pyotr Stepanovitch might treat the others as he liked, but him? Why, he knew more than all the rest, was in closer touch with the work, and taking more intimate part in it than any one, and hitherto his services had been continual, though indirect. Oh, he knew that even now Pyotr Stepanovitch might ruin him if it came to the worst, but he had long hated Pyotr Stepanovitch, and not because he was a danger, but because of his overbearing manner. Now, when he had to make up his mind to such a deed, he raged inwardly more than all the rest put together. Alas, he knew that next day, like a slave, he would be the first on the spot and would bring the others, and if he could somehow have murdered Pyotr Stepanovitch before the morrow, without ruining himself, of course, he would certainly have murdered him. Absorbed in his sensations, he trudged dejectedly after his tormentor, who seemed to have forgotten his existence, though he gave him a rude and careless shove with his elbow now and then. Suddenly Pyotr Stepanovitch halted in one of the principal thoroughfares and went into a restaurant. "What are you doing?" cried Liputin, boiling over. "This is a restaurant." "I want a beefsteak." "Upon my word, it is always full of people." "What if it is?" "But we shall be late. It's 10 o'clock already." "You can't be too late to go there." "But I shall be late. They are expecting me back." "Well, let them. But it would be stupid of you to go to them. With all your bobbery I've had no dinner. And the later you go to Kirillov's the more sure you are to find him." Pyotr Stepanovitch went to a room apart. Liputin sat in an easy chair on one side, angry and resentful, and watched him eating. Half an hour and more passed. Pyotr Stepanovitch did not hurry himself, he ate with relish, rang the bell, asked for a different kind of mustard, then for beer, without saying a word to Liputin. He was pondering deeply. He was capable of doing two things at once, eating with relish and pondering deeply. Liputin loathed him so intensely at last that he could not tear himself away. It was like a nervous obsession. He counted every morsel of beefsteak that Pyotr Stepanovitch put into his mouth. He loathed him for the way he opened it, for the way he chewed, for the way he smacked his lips over the fat morsels. He loathed the steak itself. At last things began to swim before his eyes. He began to feel slightly giddy.
He felt hot and cold run down his spine by turns. "You are doing nothing; read that," said Pyotr Stepanovitch suddenly, throwing him a sheet of paper. Liputin went nearer to the candle. The paper was closely covered with bad handwriting, with corrections in every line. By the time he had mastered it, Pyotr Stepanovitch had paid his bill and was ready to go. When they were on the pavement Liputin handed him back the paper. "Keep it. I'll tell you afterwards. What do you say to it, though?" Liputin shuddered all over. "In my opinion... such a manifesto... is nothing but a ridiculous absurdity." His anger broke out. He felt as though he were being caught up and carried along. "If we decide to distribute such manifestoes," he said, quivering all over, "we'll make ourselves contemptible by our stupidity and incompetence." "H'm... I think differently," said Pyotr Stepanovitch, walking on resolutely. "So do I. Surely it isn't your work?" "That's not your business." "I think, too, that doggerel, 'A Noble Personality,' is the most utter trash possible, and it couldn't have been written by Herzen." "You are talking nonsense. It's a good poem." "I am surprised too, for instance," said Liputin, still dashing along with desperate leaps, "that it is suggested that we should act so as to bring everything to the ground. It's natural in Europe to wish to destroy everything, because there's a proletariat there. But we are only amateurs here, and in my opinion are only showing off." "I thought you were a Fourierist." "Fourier says something quite different. Quite different." "I know, it's nonsense." "No, Fourier isn't nonsense. Excuse me, I can't believe that there will be a rising in May." Liputin positively unbuttoned his coat, he was so hot. "Well, that's enough. But now, that I mayn't forget it," said Pyotr Stepanovitch, passing with extraordinary coolness to another subject, "you will have to print this manifesto with your own hands. We're going to dig up Shatov's printing press, and you will take it to morrow. As quickly as possible you must print as many copies as you can, and then distribute them all the winter. The means will be provided. You must do as many copies as possible, for you'll be asked for them from other places." "No. Excuse me. I can't undertake such a... I decline." "You'll take it all the same. I am acting on the instructions of the Central Committee, and you are bound to obey." "And I consider that our centres abroad have forgotten what Russia is like and have lost all touch, and that's why they talk such nonsense. I even think that instead of many hundreds of quintets in Russia, we are the only one that exists, and there is no network at all," Liputin gasped finally. "The more contemptible of you, then, to run after the cause without believing in it. And you are running after me now like a mean little cur." "No, I'm not. We have a full right to break off and found a new society." "Fool!" Pyotr Stepanovitch boomed at him threateningly all of a sudden, with flashing eyes. They stood facing one another for some time. Pyotr Stepanovitch turned and pursued his way confidently. The idea flashed through Liputin's mind: "Turn and go back. If I don't turn now I shall never go back." He pondered this for 10 steps, but at the 11th a new and desperate idea flashed into his mind. He did not turn and did not go back. They were approaching Filipov's house, but before reaching it they turned down a side street, or, to be more accurate, an inconspicuous path under a fence, so that for some time they had to walk along a steep slope above a ditch where they could not keep their footing without holding the fence. At a dark corner in the slanting fence Pyotr Stepanovitch took out a plank, leaving a gap through which he promptly scrambled. Liputin was surprised, but he crawled through after him. Then they replaced the plank after them. This was the secret way by which Fedka used to visit Kirillov. "Shatov mustn't know that we are here," Pyotr Stepanovitch whispered sternly to Liputin. End of Part 3, Chapter 4, Section 2. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Part 3, Chapter 4, Sections 3 and 4 of The Possessed by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Translated by Constance Garnett. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. Part 3, Chapter 4, The Last Resolution. Section 3.
Kirillov was sitting on his leather sofa drinking tea, as he always was at that hour. He did not get up to meet them, but gave a sort of start and looked at the newcomers anxiously. "You are not mistaken," said Pyotr Stepanovitch. "It's just that I've come about." "To day?" "No, no, to morrow, about this time." And he hurriedly sat down at the table, watching Kirillov's agitation with some uneasiness. But the latter had already regained his composure and looked as usual. "These people still refuse to believe in you. You are not vexed at my bringing Liputin?" "To day I am not vexed. To morrow I want to be alone." "But not before I come, and therefore in my presence." "I should prefer not in your presence." "You remember you promised to write and to sign all I dictated." "I don't care. And now will you be here long?" "I have to see one man and to remain half an hour, so whatever you say I shall stay that half hour." Kirillov did not speak. Liputin meanwhile sat down on one side under the portrait of the bishop. That last desperate idea gained more and more possession of him. Kirillov scarcely noticed him. Liputin had heard of Kirillov's theory before and always laughed at him, but now he was silent and looked gloomily round him. "I've no objection to some tea," said Pyotr Stepanovitch, moving up. "I've just had some steak and was reckoning on getting tea with you." "Drink it. You can have some if you like." "You used to offer it to me," observed Pyotr Stepanovitch sourly. "That's no matter. Let Liputin have some too." "No, I can't." "Don't want to or can't?" said Pyotr Stepanovitch, turning quickly to him. "I am not going to here," Liputin said expressively. Pyotr Stepanovitch frowned. "There's a flavour of mysticism about that. Goodness knows what to make of you people." No one answered; there was a full minute of silence. "But I know one thing," he added abruptly, "that no superstition will prevent any one of us from doing his duty." "Has Stavrogin gone?" asked Kirillov. "Yes." "He's done well." Pyotr Stepanovitch's eyes gleamed, but he restrained himself. "I don't care what you think, as long as every one keeps his word." "I'll keep my word. I always knew that you would do your duty like an independent and progressive man." "You are an absurd fellow." "That may be. I am very glad to amuse you. I am always glad if I can give people pleasure." "You are very anxious I should shoot myself, and are afraid I might suddenly not." "Well, you see, it was your own doing, connecting your plan with our work. Reckoning on your plan, we have already done something, so that you couldn't refuse now, because you've let us in for it." "You've no claim at all." "I understand, I understand. You are perfectly free, and we don't come in so long as your free intention is carried out." "And am I to take on myself all the nasty things you've done?" "Listen, Kirillov, are you afraid? If you want to cry off, say so at once." "I'm not afraid." "I ask because you are making so many inquiries." "Are you going soon?" "Asking questions again?" Kirillov scanned him contemptuously. "You see," Pyotr Stepanovitch went on, getting angrier and angrier, and unable to take the right tone, "you want me to go away, to be alone, to concentrate yourself, but all that's a bad sign for you above all. You want to think a great deal. To my mind you'd better not think, and really you make me uneasy. There's only one thing I hate, that at such a moment I should have a reptile like you beside me." "Oh, that doesn't matter. I'll go away at the time and stand on the steps if you like. If you are so concerned about trifles when it comes to dying, then... it's all a very bad sign. I'll go out on to the steps and you can imagine I know nothing about it, and that I am a man infinitely below you." "No, not infinitely. You've got abilities, but there's a lot you don't understand, because you are a low man." "Delighted, delighted. I told you already I am delighted to provide entertainment at such a moment." "You don't understand anything." "That is, well, I listen with respect, anyway." "You can do nothing. Even now you can't hide your petty spite, though it's not to your interest to show it. You'll make me cross, and then I may want another 6 months." Pyotr Stepanovitch looked at his watch. "I never understood your theory, but I know you didn't invent it for our sakes, so I suppose you would carry it out apart from us. And I know, too, that you haven't mastered the idea, but the idea has mastered you, so you won't put it off." "What? The idea has mastered me?" "Yes." "And not I mastered the idea? That's good. You have a little sense. Only you tease me, and I am proud."
"That's a good thing. That's a good thing, just what you need to be proud." "Enough, you've drunk your tea, go away." "Damn it all, I suppose I must." Pyotr Stepanovitch got up. "Though it's early. Listen, Kirillov, shall I find that man you know whom I mean at Myasnitchta's, or has she too been lying?" "You won't find him, because he is here and not there." "Here? Damn it all, where?" "Sitting in the kitchen, eating and drinking." "How dared he?" cried Pyotr Stepanovitch, flushing angrily. "It was his duty to wait. What nonsense! He has no passport, no money." "I don't know. He came to say good bye. He is dressed and ready. He is going away and won't come back. He says you are a scoundrel, and he doesn't want to wait for your money." "Ha ha! He is afraid that I'll... But even now I can... if... Where is he? In the kitchen?" Kirillov opened a side door into a tiny dark room. From this room 3 steps led straight to the part of the kitchen where the cook's bed was usually put behind the partition. Here, in the corner under the ikons, Fedka was sitting now, at a bare deal table. Before him stood a pint bottle, a plate of bread, and some cold beef and potatoes on an earthenware dish. He was eating in a leisurely way and was already half drunk, but he was wearing his sheepskin coat and was evidently ready for a journey. A samovar was boiling the other side of the screen, but it was not for Fedka, who had every night for a week or more zealously blown it up and got it ready for Alexey Nilitch, for he's such a habit of drinking tea at nights. I am strongly disposed to believe that, as Kirillov had not a cook, he had cooked the beef and potatoes that morning with his own hands for Fedka. "What notion is this?" cried Pyotr Stepanovitch, whisking into the room. "Why didn't you wait where you were ordered?" And swinging his fist he brought it down heavily on the table. Fedka assumed an air of dignity. "You wait a bit, Pyotr Stepanovitch, you wait a bit," he began, with a swaggering emphasis on each word. "It's your first duty to understand here that you are on a polite visit to Mr. Kirillov, Alexey Nilitch, whose boots you might clean any day, because beside you he is a man of culture and you are only... Foo!" And he made a jaunty show of spitting to one side. Haughtiness and determination were evident in his manner, and a certain very threatening assumption of argumentative calm that suggested an outburst to follow. But Pyotr Stepanovitch had no time to realise the danger, and it did not fit in with his preconceived ideas. The incidents and disasters of the day had quite turned his head. Liputin, at the top of the 3 steps, stared inquisitively down from the little dark room. "Do you or don't you want a trustworthy passport and good money to go where you've been told? Yes or no?" "You see, Pyotr Stepanovitch, you've been deceiving me from the first, and so you've been a regular scoundrel to me. For all the world like a filthy human louse. That's how I look on you. You've promised me a lot of money for shedding innocent blood, and swore it was for Mr. Stavrogin, though it turns out to be nothing but your want of breeding. I didn't get a farthing out of it, let alone 1,500, and Mr. Stavrogin hit you in the face, which has come to our ears. Now you are threatening me again and promising me money. What for, you don't say. And I shouldn't wonder if you are sending me to Petersburg to plot some revenge in your spite against Mr. Stavrogin, Nikolay Vsyevolodovitch, reckoning on my simplicity. And that proves you are the chief murderer. And do you know what you deserve for the very fact that in the depravity of your heart you've given up believing in God Himself, the true Creator? You are no better than an idolater, and are on a level with the Tatar and the Mordva. Alexey Nilitch, who is a philosopher, has expounded the true God, the Creator, many a time to you, as well as the creation of the world and the fate that's to come and the transformation of every sort of creature and every sort of beast out of the Apocalypse. But you've persisted like a senseless idol in your deafness and your dumbness, and have brought Ensign Erkel to the same, like the veriest evil seducer and so-called atheist. Ah, you drunken dog! He strips the ikons of their setting and then preaches about God. D'you see, Pyotr Stepanovitch, I tell you truly that I have stripped the ikons, but I only took out the pearls, and how do you know? Perhaps my own tear was transformed into a pearl in the furnace of the Most High to make up for my sufferings, seeing I am just that very orphan, having no daily refuge. Do you know from the books that once, in ancient times, a merchant with just such tearful sighs and prayers stole a pearl from the halo of the Mother of God, and afterwards, in the face of all the people, laid the whole price of it at her feet,
and the Holy Mother sheltered him with her mantle before all the people, so that it was a miracle, and the command was given through the authorities to write it all down word for word in the imperial books. And you let a mouse in, so you insulted the very throne of God. And if you were not my natural master, whom I dandled in my arms when I was a stripling, I would have done for you now without budging from this place." Pyotr Stepanovitch flew into a violent rage. "Tell me, have you seen Stavrogin to day?" "Don't you dare to question me. Mr. Stavrogin is fairly amazed at you, and he had no share in it, even in wish, let alone instructions or giving money. You've presumed with me." "You'll get the money, and you'll get another 2,000 in Petersburg when you get there, in a lump sum, and you'll get more." "You are lying, my fine gentleman, and it makes me laugh to see how easily you are taken in. Mr. Stavrogin stands at the top of the ladder above you, and you yelp at him from below like a silly puppy dog, while he thinks it would be doing you an honour to spit at you." "But do you know," cried Pyotr Stepanovitch in a rage, "that I won't let you stir a step from here, you scoundrel, and I'll hand you straight over to the police." Fedka leapt on to his feet and his eyes gleamed with fury. Pyotr Stepanovitch pulled out his revolver. Then followed a rapid and revolting scene. Before Pyotr Stepanovitch could take aim, Fedka swung round and in a flash struck him on the cheek with all his might. Then there was the thud of a second blow, a third, then a fourth, all on the cheek. Pyotr Stepanovitch was dazed. With his eyes starting out of his head, he muttered something and suddenly crashed full length to the ground. "There you are, take him!" shouted Fedka with a triumphant swagger. He instantly took up his cap, his bag from under the bench, and was gone. Pyotr Stepanovitch lay gasping and unconscious. Liputin even imagined that he had been murdered. Kirillov ran headlong into the kitchen. "Water!" he cried, and ladling some water in an iron dipper from a bucket, he poured it over the injured man's head. Pyotr Stepanovitch stirred, raised his head, sat up, and looked blankly about him. "Well, how are you?" asked Kirillov. Pyotr Stepanovitch looked at him intently, still not recognizing him, but seeing Liputin peeping in from the kitchen, he smiled his hateful smile and suddenly got up, picking up his revolver from the floor. "If you take it into your head to run away to morrow like that scoundrel Stavrogin," he cried, pouncing furiously on Kirillov, pale, stammering, and hardly able to articulate his words, "I'll hang you like a fly, or crush you, if it's at the other end of the world. Do you understand?" And he held the revolver straight at Kirillov's head, but almost at the same moment, coming completely to himself, he drew back his hand, thrust the revolver into his pocket, and without saying another word ran out of the house. Liputin followed him. They clambered through the same gap, and again walked along the slope holding to the fence. Pyotr Stepanovitch strode rapidly down the street, so that Liputin could scarcely keep up with him. At the first crossing he suddenly stopped. "Well?" He turned to Liputin with a challenge. Liputin remembered the revolver and was still trembling all over after the scene he had witnessed, but the answer seemed to come of itself irresistibly from his tongue. "I think that... Did you see what Fedka was drinking in the kitchen?" "What he was drinking? He was drinking vodka." "Well, then, let me tell you it's the last time in his life he will drink vodka. I recommend you to remember that and reflect on it. And now go to hell. You are not wanted till to morrow. But mind now, don't be a fool." Liputin rushed home full speed. Section 4. He had long had a passport in readiness made out in a false name. It seems a wild idea that this prudent little man, the petty despot of his family, who was above all things a sharp man of business and a capitalist, and who was an official too, though he was a Fourierist, should long before have conceived the fantastic project of procuring this passport in case of emergency, that he might escape abroad by means of it if he did admit the possibility of this if, though no doubt he was never able to formulate what this if might mean. But now it suddenly formulated itself, and in a most unexpected way. That desperate idea with which he had gone to Kirillov's after that fool he had heard from Pyotr Stepanovitch on the pavement, had been to abandon everything at dawn next day and to emigrate abroad. If anyone doubts that such fantastic incidents occur in everyday Russian life, even now, let him look into the biographies of all the Russian exiles abroad. Not one of them escaped with more wisdom or real justification.
It has always been the unrestrained domination of phantoms and nothing more. Running home, he began by locking himself in, getting out his travelling bag, and feverishly beginning to pack. His chief anxiety was the question of money, and how much he could rescue from the impending ruin, and by what means. He thought of it as rescuing, for it seemed to him that he could not linger an hour, and that by daylight he must be on the high road. He did not know where to take the train either. He vaguely determined to take it at the second or third big station from the town, and to make his way there on foot if necessary. In that way, instinctively and mechanically, he busied himself in his packing with a perfect whirl of ideas in his head, and suddenly stopped short, gave it all up, and with a deep groan stretched himself on the sofa. He felt clearly and suddenly realised that he might escape, but that he was by now utterly incapable of deciding whether he ought to make off before or after Shatov's death, that he was simply a lifeless body, a crude inert mass, that he was being moved by an awful outside power, and that, though he had a passport to go abroad, that though he could run away from Shatov otherwise what need was there of such haste? Yet he would run away, not from Shatov, not before his murder, but after it, and that that was determined, signed, and sealed. In insufferable distress, trembling every instant and wondering at himself, alternately groaning aloud and numb with terror, he managed to exist till 11 o'clock next morning locked in and lying on the sofa. Then came the shock he was awaiting, and it at once determined him. When he unlocked the door and went out to his household at 11 o'clock, they told him that the runaway convict and brigand, Fedka, who was a terror to every one, who had pillaged churches and only lately been guilty of murder and arson, who was being pursued and could not be captured by our police, had been found at daybreak murdered, 5 miles from the town, at a turning off the high road, and that the whole town was talking of it already. He rushed headlong out of the house at once to find out further details, and learned, to begin with, that Fedka, who had been found with his skull broken, had apparently been robbed, and secondly, that the police already had strong suspicion, and even good grounds for believing that the murderer was one of the Shpigulin men called Fomka, the very one who had been his accomplice in murdering the Lebyadkins and setting fire to their house, and that there had been a quarrel between them on the road about a large sum of money stolen from Lebyadkin, which Fedka was supposed to have hidden. Liputin ran to Pyotr Stepanovitch's lodgings, and succeeded in learning at the back door, on the sly, that though Pyotr Stepanovitch had not returned home till about 1 o'clock at night, he had slept there quietly all night till 8 o'clock next morning. Of course there could be no doubt that there was nothing extraordinary about Fedka's death, and that such careers usually have such an ending; but the coincidence of the fatal words that it was the last time Fedka would drink vodka with the prompt fulfilment of the prediction was so remarkable that Liputin no longer hesitated. The shock had been given. It was as though a stone had fallen upon him and crushed him forever. Returning home, he thrust his travelling bag under the bed without a word, and in the evening, at the hour fixed, he was the first to appear at the appointed spot to meet Shatov, though it's true he still had his passport in his pocket. End of Part 3, Chapter 4. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine.